I signed the papers to become Mrs. Sterling to save my little brother. For 3 years of our secret marriage, he treated me as a decoration he could take or leave. When the press questioned me about my jewelry designs, Julian hugged his white moon sweetheart and watched with cold eyes. She's just the living housekeeper, he told the world. I slid off my wedding band and left that very night. This time I didn't even ask for a goodbye settlement. Later, I rocketed to fame at the international jewelry show hosted by the Sterling Empire's fiercest rival. Julian blocked me backstage, eyes bloodshot. "Mrs. Sterling, come home." I lifted my left hand. The diamond on my ring finger blazed. "Mr. Sterling, let me introduce you. This is my fiancé." Before we go on, subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling us where you're listening. Riverdale in July felt trapped inside a steamer. The humidity stole every breath. Taylor stood outside the cafe across from Sterling Group's tower, a damp patch of sweat gluing her white cotton dress to the small of her back. She clutched a craft envelope, yesterday's signed jewelry design contract. For 3 years she had hidden the deal from Julian, polishing herself from a desperate girl who bartered marriage for cash into a designer whose name now rang bells. The envelope's edge crumpled under her grip as she stared at the sky-high glass monolith and dragged in a steadying breath. Today was her 3rd wedding anniversary with Julian. Of course he never marked such dates. He forgot her birthday, forgot what she liked to eat, forgot how she had tiptoed through his shadow for 3 endless years. That rainy night 3 years ago, hospital dunning letters had fluttered down like curses. His assistant found her and slid a folder across the table. "Jordan, Mr. Sterling will cover every bill for your brother and every debt of your father's company," the tailored suit said as casually as forecasting weather conditions. "You marry Mr. Sterling for 3 years. Play the part in private. Never publicize it. Never meddle in his private life." Taylor had just graduated. Her brother lay in ICU. Her father's hair blanched overnight. The family firm was a breath from bankruptcy. She had no choice. So she became Mrs. Sterling, an unrecognized canary caged in gilded bars. Her phone vibrated. A text from Leo. "Sis, today's follow-up was amazing. Doc says I can leave in a month. Riley, thank you for everything these years." Taylor's nose stung. She typed fast. "Wonderful news. Listen to the doctors. I'll swing by tonight." She looked up just as Julian stepped out of the black Maybach. A razor-cut black suit carved his frame. His gaze was winter steel. Beside him swept Sophie, chief secretary and rumored lifelong muse, in a champagne skirt suit, flawless, with chestnut waves pinned into a regal coil. She tilted her head, murmuring with a poised smile. Julian answered with a slight nod, an ounce of patience Taylor seldom received. Taylor instinctively shrank behind a pillar. An invisible hand squeezed her heart, a dull familiar pain. She had watched this scene dozens of times. Yet the ache arrived on schedule. Only when the pair vanished through the revolving doors did she cross the street and enter via the staff gate. Julian's rule. Employees only, never the executive elevator, never hint that she was his wife. The lift numbers climbed. Taylor tracked them, thoughts flitting to her plan for the evening. She had learned to cook the sweet and sour ribs he'd loved as a boy. Most nights they remained untouched, but today she would try once more. Not for the anniversary alone, but for the contract she just signed. Zoe, her real name, was finally validated. Perhaps tonight she could speak to Julian about these 3 years, about a future, even if it was only wishful thinking. The elevator chimed. She stepped into the design department's corridor. She held a token post here, work slow enough to gather dust, a handy mask. As she neared her corner desk, she caught snatches of gossip. "Did you hear Stella Sparkle Jewelry Contest winners will be announced at tonight's charity gala? The biggest rookie award. Who'll bag it this year? Definitely Ellis, right? Remember the emerald brooch she designed for Mrs. Sterling's birthday?" Julian escorted her to the press conference himself. True, Ellis and Mr. Sterling. Matter of time, some people should quit dreaming. The speaker flicked a glance toward Taylor. Taylor lowered her eyes, slid into her chair, and opened her laptop. The wallpaper displayed a doodle, thorns twisting around a blooming rose. Nobody knew it was the embryo of the piece she had entered. Light in thorns. Night after night, when Julian stayed away, she had sketched, polished, and revised in that tiny study. All her stifled feelings, her bottled hopes, Her loneliness and grit crystallized inside those lines and facets. Taylor Alex, the department head, rapped the desk, voice brisk. Tonight's charity gala needs extra hands on site. Don't leave after work. You're coming. Casey Alex, tonight I work arrangement. Alex cut in, irritated. Both Julian and Ellis will attend. Critical. Smarten yourself up. Your usual plain look will embarrass us. She spun away. Taylor opened her mouth, then closed it, texting Julian. She'd be late. He probably wouldn't care. She messaged Leo that she'd be delayed, then glanced at the pin chat she rarely touched. Julian. Their history was a desert of one-way notes. I'm home. Dinner's ready. Cold tomorrow. Take a coat. His replies when they came were a tardy more nothing. Once, half a year ago, her father's condition crashed. She spent the night in the hospital and, burning with a 103 degrees fever, typed at dawn, I think I have a fever. Still at hospital. 30 minutes later, he answered, Lee will pick you up. The only time he acted on her plea, though he'd already flown abroad by the time the car dumped her at the empty mansion. She closed the chat. Fine. Tonight she would see amid the glitter just how golden the boy and girl pair of Julian and Sophie looked, and where the legitimate Mrs. Sterling would be placed. 7 p.m. Riverdale International Convention Center blazed with lights. The annual charity banquet lured every socialite. The air was thick with perfume and ambition. The company had supplied Taylor a plain cream knee-length dress, modest, designed not to stand out. Stationed near the entrance with several colleagues, she greeted guests and pointed them to sign-in desks. She kept her head down, yet her gaze chased the brightest figure in the hall. Julian, unmistakable center of gravity, wore a custom Giorgio Armani tuxedo that framed his shoulders and long legs in aristocratic ice. He lifted his champagne, conversing in cool monosyllables, distant even while smiling. At his side, Morgan swirled in Valentino scarlet lace, radiant, leaning to whisper, their body language intimate. Around them eyes gleamed with envy, approval, certainty, the perfect couple. Taylor's chest felt tight. She excused herself to the restroom and fled the suffocating moment. The terrace at the far end of the corridor was quieter. The night breeze carried away some of the sticky heat. Taylor leaned on the balustrade, staring at the city's glittering skyline, while her thumb unconsciously rubbed the base of her left ring finger where a faint circle of paler skin showed. The plain platinum band Julian had tossed her on their wedding day had been slipped on only when she was alone. Most of the time it lay buried in a drawer, as sunless as this marriage. Hiding out here, are we? A sarcastic female voice cut through the air. Sam. She watched Sophie glide over, champagne flute in hand, smile immaculate, scrutiny and disdain sharp in her eyes. Ellis Taylor lowered her lashes. Sophie stopped beside her, inspecting her with deliberate casualness. That dress looks bulky, right? No wonder it doesn't fit, she sipped. Julian is so strict even with staff. But then, someone with your pedestrian background and average talent getting into Sterling is already a favor. One really shouldn't ask for more. Taylor's fingers curled, nails biting her palms. She lifted her gaze. Calm. Ellis is right. Sterling's bar is high. I'm grateful to stay. Sophie's smile widened at the dignity. Her eyes slid to Taylor's bare ring finger. Know your place. Ditch impossible dreams early. Some things aren't yours. Chasing them only disgusts people, don't you think? Applause and cheers burst from the ballroom. The MC's excited voice rang through the speakers. And now the grand prize of this year's Starlight Jewelry Design Competition, the Star of Starlight, goes to Zoe for Light of Thorn. Taylor's heart lurched. Sophie's smile froze. She whipped around toward the hall, disbelief flooding her face. A staffer hurried through the terrace door, looking around. Designer Zoe. Is Zoe here? Please come to the stage. Taylor inhaled, straightened her spine. Meeting Sophie's eyes, she saw shock, envy, a flicker of panic. Without a word, she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear and walked toward the attendant, stride steady. I'm Zoe. The woman blinked, startled that the plainly dressed woman in the corner was the event's dark horse, then beamed. Ms. Lynn, this way quickly. When Taylor stepped into the spotlight, she felt the room's gaze ignite. Curiosity, appraisal, doubt. She located Julian at once. His habitual indolence cracked. His deep eyes pinned her, stunned, reassessing as if truly seeing her for the first time. The MC handed her the mic. "Zoe, so young and brilliant. Congratulations. Could you share your feelings and the inspiration behind Light of Thorns?" Taylor's fingers chilled around the metal, yet her voice came level. "Riley, this award means everything to me. The inspiration was a feeling, finding the last flicker of light inside despair, gathering strength, breaking free." Her gaze drifted across the audience. Julian's face darkened. "It stands for struggle, endurance, the hope of self-salvation. Thorns pierce, yet in the right hands they guard beauty and shine." She paused. "I dedicate it to myself and to everyone who stores up power in silence." Applause rose. Whispered comments drifted. Zoe had never heard of her. Design stunning, concept solid. Sterling's staff saw her at the door. A reporter pushed forward. Voice cutting. "Designer Zoe. We understand you're employed by Sterling Group. Your style differs markedly from Sterling's and Mr. Sterling's taste. Did you feel pressured? Will you adjust your direction? Rumor says you're close to Mr. Sterling. Did that help you win?" Each question barbed, hinting at favoritism. The hall quieted, every stare fixed on Taylor, waiting for a stumble. Her throat dried instinctively. She sought Julian, her husband, Sterling's CEO. One sentence, "She's our outstanding designer," would douse the flames. Julian met her gaze, unreadable. Sophie tugged his sleeve, murmured. His brows drew together. Then, under Taylor's silent plea, he looked away and sipped his champagne, detached. Ice water seemed to pour over her. The last ember in her chest died. The reporter pressed, emboldened. "Zoe, answer please. What exactly is your relationship with Mr. Sterling?" Cameras surged, hungry for her collapse. Taylor closed her eyes. When they reopened, they were calm. She even smiled faintly. "Mr. Sterling and I," she enunciated, slow and clear as he once put it. "I'm merely the Sterling's long-term living housekeeper." Gasps rippled through the room. Journalists gaped. Guests buzzed. A Star of Starlight winner calling herself Julian's maid. Scandal of the year. Julian's knuckles whitened around his glass, eyes like blades. He hadn't expected her to fling his careless dismissal back at him. Here now, Taylor didn't linger. She returned the mic, inclined her head, and walked off the stage under the torrent of eyes. Passing Julian, she didn't pause or glance. She headed straight for the exit. Behind her, Sophie's voice rose, anxious, placating. "Julian, don't be angry. She must be overexcited." Julian's curt growl cut her off. "Shut up." Outside, summer night heat hit her, but it couldn't melt the ice inside or dry the tears she finally let fall. She scrubbed them away with the back of her hand. Enough, really enough. 3 years of swallowing her voice had earned her nothing but his heedlessness and, at the crucial moment, abandonment. The phrase, "just our housekeeper," had festered like a thorn. Tonight she yanked it out, flesh and blood, and was free. She took out her phone and dialed. "Emery, Zoe here about Quizionian's invitation." "Yes, I accept. Let's discuss details tomorrow." Quan, Sterling's fiercest rival. After hanging up, Taylor cast one last look at the glittering lights and the roaring Vanity Fair behind her. Then she hailed a taxi and gave the address of the mansion she had lived in for 3 years, yet never once called home. It was time to leave completely. Back at the mansion, everything was as coldly silent as always. Taylor didn't turn on the lights. She climbed the stairs by moonlight. Her luggage was pitifully small. Most of her clothes and daily necessities had been bought with Julian's money, and she had no intention of taking any of it. She packed only a small carry-on suitcase with a few old garments, her design sketches, her award certificates, and some keepsakes that actually meant something. Lastly, she opened the bedside drawer and took out the deep blue velvet jewelry box. Inside lay the plain, unadorned wedding band, dull and lifeless. She stared at it for several seconds, then snapped the lid shut and placed the box on the pillow where he usually slept, right in the center of the big bed. From the study drawer, she retrieved the already yellowing marriage contract from 3 years ago, along with the divorce agreement she had drafted long ago. She signed her name on the divorce papers, then slid both documents beneath the ring box. In the agreement, she voluntarily relinquished any financial compensation Julian might offer. Her younger brother's illness was nearly cured. Her father's company debts long repaid. She had earned the future of Zoe with her own hands. She no longer wanted to carry away anything connected to him, not even his money. When it was done, she surveyed the room she had occupied for 3 years. Spacious, luxurious, spotless, yet ice-cold and hollow without the faintest trace of life or of her. She had been nothing more than a temporary lodger. Now that her time was up, she would exit quietly. As she pulled her suitcase downstairs, the grandfather clock in the living room struck midnight. The chimes echoed through the empty house, sounding the knell of this absurd marriage. Taylor didn't look back. She opened the door and stepped into the heavy night air. The summer wind lifted her soft hair. She drew a deep breath of free outdoor air and hailed another taxi, Jamie, to the airport. It was time to begin a life that truly belonged to Taylor. To Zoe, she took out her phone and blocked every contact connected to Julian. Then she sent her brother a message. Leo, I'm going away on business for a while. Chasing my dream. Take good care of yourself. When I'm settled, I'll bring you over. Love you. Outside. Riverdale's neon street backward like comets. This city had cradled too much of her humiliation, endurance, and heartbreak. Now she would fling it, along with the wreckage of her marriage, behind her. The future might be unknown, but at last its direction was in her own hands. The morning after Taylor left, Julian finally returned to the mansion. Last night's charity gala, after Taylor's earth-shattering live-in housekeeper remark, had turned into a public execution and an all-you-can-eat gossip buffet. Reporters circled like sharks. Sophie hovered at his side trying to patch holes, only stirring more chaos. He'd spent half the night squashing outrageous headlines, but everyone who mattered already knew. He felt like hell, holed up in a hotel suite, chain-smoking half a pack. He hadn't expected the docile, ghost quiet to unshaft such a sharp blade, nor that a casual insult he tossed off would become the very knife she twisted into him. Anger aside, there was a restlessness he refused to examine, and a sense of losing control. The moment he pushed open the door, the mansion lay in deathly silence, unnatural for this hour. Usually Taylor would have breakfast ready by now. Even if he rarely touched it, she still set it out, filling the air with coffee aroma or that faint scent of sun-dried cotton that clung to her. Today nothing. Julian frowned, tossed his suit jacket on the sofa, loosened his tie and climbed the stairs. The bedroom door stood ajar. He nudged it wide. The room looked aggressively tidy, eerily empty. His gaze snapped to the bed center. A navy jewelry box atop 2 sheets of paper. A bad premonition seized him. He strode over, flipped the box open, and the wedding band he barely remembered glinted coldly in the dawn light. Setting it aside, he lifted the documents on top. A divorce agreement. Where the second party signed Taylor was written clear, resolute. The terms were blunt. She waived any division of communal property, walking away with nothing. Beneath it lay their 3-year-old marriage contract. Julian's pupils contracted. He skimmed the divorce clause by clause, scanned the room, and finally confirmed her things were gone. Her small corner of the walk-in closet stood half empty. Her toiletries had vanished from the bathroom. Even the fleece throw she wrapped around herself while sketching had disappeared from the windowside chair. She was gone. Really gone. No tantrum, no ploy to gain attention. Just a clean, complete exit. Taking none of his money, he crushed the papers in his grip until his knuckles blanched and veins bulged. His chest felt slammed by something heavy. The ache radiated outward. He'd assumed she was throwing a fit after 3 years of obedience, of being dependent on the shelter he granted. He'd thought one night's cool-off would restore the status quo. He was wrong. The woman who had stayed quietly inside the circle he drew had sprouted hard, unbreakable wings. He should have realized when the final light in her eyes died on that stage last night. He hurled the agreements onto the bed, bolted from the bedroom, and roared at the empty staircase. Taylor's only echoes answered. He yanked out his phone and dialed a number he'd never once called voluntarily. "The number you have dialed is powered off," the icy robotic voice looped. Julian's face darkened like a sky about to split. He scrolled to his assistant's number. Find out where Taylor is, every mode of transport now. Dylan, he paced the cavernous living room, the still air suffocating. On the coffee table lay a jewelry design magazine she often leafed through. On the sofa squatted the ugly sunflower throw pillow she'd bought. Without noticing, she'd left fingerprints everywhere. What had seemed invisible now glared at him. Half an hour later, his assistant called back, voice shaky. "Mr. Sterling, we found her. Mrs. Lin took a midnight flight to Paris. Immigration and hotel records place her there now." "Paris? Why Paris?" Julian's brow locked. He knew nothing of her friends, her hobbies, anything beyond Mrs. Sterling and token employee at Sterling Corporation. Keep digging: where she's staying, what she's doing, who she's meeting. Another long wait. The next call came even more hesitant, disbelief audible. "Mr. Sterling." She traveled as independent jewelry designer Zoe, invited by French studio Suasion. Surti Suasion's Asia-Pacific headquarters officially offered her the post of chief designer yesterday. She accepted. Suasion. Julian shot to his feet, sending a crystal ashtray crashing to the floor in glittering shards. Of course he knew Suasion. The venerable European house, aggressively expanding into Asia, was Sterling Jewelry's most exasperating rival. They'd poached Taylor. No, Taylor had marched to their camp and become their spearhead. She had slapped him across the face with a spectacle the whole city would talk about. Rage roared through him, but stronger, so strong he refused to name. It was something like, panic. "Book me the first flight to Paris now," he barked into the phone. "Mr. Sterling, you have the signing ceremony with Riverside Bank tomorrow morning. Cancel it." He had to find her. Drag her back. How could his wife, Julian's wife, defect to the enemy? The farce ended today. 1 month later, Paris, inside Suasion's Asia-Pacific Design Center on the Seine. An internal preview of the new collection had just wrapped. Taylor, now better known in the trade as Zoe, was ringed by designers from headquarters, dissecting the flagship piece of her Renaissance line. Beside the pale, silent ghost who had left Riverdale, she looked reborn, hair cropped to a sharp bob that bared the elegant line of her neck, a touch of makeup color high, a crisp white shirt tucked into beige high-waist trousers, the thorn motif 18-karat gold necklace she had designed glinting at her throat, confident, radiant. "Zoe, your read of light and gemstone emotion is surgical," raved Emmanuel, the Paris design director. "Thorn of light will fly off the shelves. It helps that the company gives me room to breathe," Taylor answered in flawless French, slipping into the conversation like wine into a stem. The past 4 weeks had been wound tight. New city, new project, leading a team, revising sketches. Business left no cracks for memories, and Suasion's respect, budgets, and spotlight let her fall back in love with design and with herself. Thorn of Light was now in final sampling, the cannon shot with which Suasion would storm the Asia-Pacific market. She had just walked her headquarters colleagues out when her assistant, a newly graduated Chinese-French kid named Rain, scampered over, equal parts thrilled and terrified. "Zoe J, someone's here for you. Conference room says his surname is Sterling." Taylor's smile cooled, a frost of memory in her eyes. The reckoning had arrived. "Got it. Pushed the Italia meeting by 30 minutes. In the conference room, Julian stood with his back to the door, studying the Seine beyond the glass. Black trench, posture still razor straight, but fatigue and dust clung to him. For a month, he had thrown every private investigator he knew at her trail, only to hit wall after wall. Suasion guarded her like state secrets. At last he had the address. He turned when the latch clicked. For a heartbeat, his lungs forgot how to work. He barely recognized her. Not the face. He could still map those freckles in the dark, but the aura. She moved like someone who owned the ground beneath her feet. Calm, incandescent. No longer the wallpaper wife who used to flinch when he frowned. She didn't even look surprised, as if he were a courier dropping off a parcel. The strangeness of her composure poured kerosene on his temper. "So this is what you wanted?" His voice, gravelly from the flight and the choke of anger, carried its usual accusation. "Run to Paris. Hide inside Suasion. Taylor, what the hell are you playing at?" She settled on the sofa opposite, relaxed, and motioned him to sit. "Mr. Sterling, have a seat. The room's soundproof. Say your piece." "My piece." Her boardroom civility ignited him. He closed the distance in 3 strides, towering. "I'm taking you home. You're my wife legally still. Who gave you the right to vanish overseas and jump to the competition? Resign. We're leaving tonight." Taylor lifted her gaze, studying the familiar face distorted by rage. Once, a single crease in that brow had cost her a night's sleep. Now it merely looked pitiful. Wife, she echoed as though tasting a joke. Mr. Sterling, did you misplace the divorce papers? I signed. Legally, we're separated. Soon strangers. I never filed. That paper is garbage, he snarled. Or did you forget who bailed the Lin family out? This is your gratitude. Betrayal. Gratitude. A smile without warmth curved her mouth. 3 years, Julian. I honored the contract. Invisible, Mrs. Sterling. Sporadic prop for your family inspections. Mute while you introduced me as the living housekeeper. I traded my youth and dignity for my brother's hospital bills. We're even. She rose, no longer looking up at him, eyes level and cutting. I owe you nothing. Betrayal. Did we ever have anything beyond clause and consideration? Was I your wife for even one day? The question slammed into his ribs. He had no answer. In 3 years he'd never factored her into his life, only the contract. I was wrong, he admitted, forcing the words, voice stiff with unfamiliar softness. We start over. Come back. You'll have the title, the spotlight, publicly if you want. Start over. She laughed, pity shading her eyes. Too late. The moment you watched them humiliate me at that gala, the moment I dragged my carry-on suitcase out of the mansion, the bridge burned. I love my life now. Work I believe in. Respect a future. Why crawl back into your gilded cage to play ghost again, Taylor? Her certainty cut him. He lunged for her wrist. Don't be stupid. Without sterling protection, how long before Tuasian chews you up? They're using you to hurt me. She stepped back, evading his grip, and regarded the flare of anger, frustration, and panic in his eyes. Irony tasted bitter. Mr. Sterling, control yourself. This is Tuasian territory. Her voice chilled. That's all, leave. I have deadlines. Julian stared at the woman carved from ice, chest caving under a pressure he couldn't name. Never had he felt this powerless, this unmade. The docile figure who once waited for his shadow was gone, replaced by tempered steel. You'll regret this, Taylor. He bit out, syllables dropping like stones. She answered by pressing the intercom. Rain, please escort Mr. Sterling out. Security was polite but firm. Julian found himself on a Paris sidewalk, autumn wind knifing through his coat. He looked up at the glass fortress of art and innovation and registered finally the void inside his ribs. She had excised him cleanly without anesthesia. 2 months later, late fall, Geneva Salon International d'Automne was about to open. This year, Tunisian Newly Invited would debut in the main hall. Headline event. The launch of Renaissance, masterminded by chief designer Zoe. Centerpiece. The refined post-award incarnation of Thorn of Light. The evening before, in the host hotel, Taylor opened the leather case that held tomorrow's showpiece. A platinum collar of diamond thorns clasping a 10-carat flawless fancy vivid yellow diamond. An ember burning inside a cage of light. Her phone rang. It was a video call from her brother Leo. The boy on the screen looked ruddy and bright-eyed. Big sis. Knock him dead tomorrow. Dad and I will be watching you on TV. You're so cool right now. A warm tide rose in Taylor's heart. Don't worry, your sister's got this. Take your meds and keep your checkups. Once this craziness is over, I'll take leave and come see you. Got it? Oh, and Leo hesitated, lowering his voice. Sis, a couple of days ago, Julian came to the hospital to see me. Taylor's brows snapped together. What did he want? Nothing much. Just asked how you've been, whether Paris is treating you well. Felt kind of weird. He looked thinner. No energy. I did what you taught me. Said you're fine. Busy with work. Nothing else to tell. He didn't press. Just sat a while and left. Leo curled his lip. Bit late now. Taylor's gaze chilled. Ignore him. He and I are finished. Focus on getting better. Don't waste another thought on it. Roger. The call had barely ended when the doorbell rang. Taylor assumed it was her and went to open it. Outside stood Julian, immaculate in a crisp black suit that couldn't hide the livid bruises of fatigue under his eyes. In his hand dangled a guest badge stamped with the exhibition logo. Taylor's face darkened instantly. President Sterling, you again? How did you get in? I have an invitation, Julian said hoarsely, eyes locking on her face, drinking in every line as though he was starved for the sight. Compared with that day at the Paris Design Center, she shone even brighter, a diamond polished to lethal brilliance and infinitely farther out of reach. I wasn't aware Suasion had extended an invite to Sterling, Taylor said, blocking the doorway. Sterling didn't receive one, Julian admitted, throat bobbing. I pulled strings, paid a fortune, anything, to walk in legally and see you. What exactly do you want? Taylor's patience snapped. Julian stared at the cold, distant woman who had once been his. Months of torment, regret, rage, and the gnawing emptiness that kept him awake surged all at once. He had investigated every thread of her life, and the deeper he dug, the more horrified and ashamed he became. He had watched her flourish inside Suasion, read the industry's lavish praise, sensed the raw vitality in her pieces, glimpsed an inner world he had never bothered to explore. Only then did he grasp what a treasure he had owned and trampled. Zoe, he rasped, the pet name he had never dared speak aloud, jolting them both. Cameron, everything that happened, it was my fault. For the first time, the almighty Zoe bowed his head. I was a bastard, blind and cruel. I never valued you, never gave you the respect you deserved or the love. A tremor crossed Taylor's eyes, but calm returned. An apology long overdue is cheaper than weeds. Words mean nothing now, Julian. They mean everything. Julian stepped closer, frantic. Let's start over, please. This time I'll chase you. I'll cherish you. I'll announce to the world that you are my wife. Give you the reins of sterling jewelry. Anything you want, just come back. He pulled out a midnight blue velvet box and snapped it open. A startling pink diamond caught the corridor light and bled rainbows. Zoe, give me one more chance. 3 years ago, the scene would have reduced her to tears. Now it felt obscene. She studied the priceless stone, then the bloodshot sincerity. She could no longer read and felt only tired. Why do people only try to mend after smashing? Why force their will on others? She raised her left hand. On her ring finger, a sleek platinum band glittered. Twin olive branches embraced a modest but fiery diamond. Simple, elegant, alive. Julian, she said, voice flat. Allow me to introduce. She lifted her hand until the ring's sparkle stabbed his eyes. My fiancé Adrian gave me this engagement ring. Julian reeled as if struck, color draining from his face. He gaped at the band, then at her, searching for any sign of a lie. Fiancé. Adrian, the Asia-Pacific president of 2Asian. Yes. Taylor lowered her hand, a soft, genuine warmth entering her tone. We met in Paris. He admires my work, supports my career, and more importantly, respects me, loves me, treats me as an equal. We're getting married next spring. Each syllable drove a poisoned icicle into his heart until breathing itself felt cold. Adrian, that polished, ruthless rival, had won her. No, impossible. You can't, he mumbled. The box slipped from his fingers and hit the carpet with a muted thud. Julian let go. Watching his shoulders sag and the life leak from his face, Taylor felt the last ripple in her heart smooth into stillness. We've been over for a long time. I'm happy now. I hope you find your own. But that person will never be me again. She bent, snapped the box shut, and pressed it back into his rigid hand. Tomorrow is my big day. I won't let anything spoil it. Please leave and don't come back. Without another glance, she closed the heavy hotel door, severing him from her sight and crushing his final shred of hope. Slumped against the cold wall, he slid to the floor, burying his face in his hands. The pink diamond ring rolled free, its sparkle on the carpet cold and mocking. He had lost her truly. He'd looked straight through her when she was his, and now the pain was all he could see. Perhaps that was the harshest sentence life could hand him. Inside, Taylor rested her back against the door a moment. Then she walked to the window, gazed out at the glittering night mirrored on Lake Geneva, and gently traced the olive wreath on her finger, a warm, liberated smile blooming on her lips. When Adrian proposed, he had said, Zoe, you are an olive tree made stronger by every storm. Let me be the gardener who watches you leaf, blossom, and bear fruit. The thorn-bound marriage that once wounded her had forged her strongest armor and brightest polish. Now the thorns had fallen away, and new olive branches unfurled beneath the sun. Tomorrow Zoe Taylor would step into the light in front of the world. Her future was only just beginning, the end. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and share with friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more wonderful stories. See you next time.